Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got an early impression of a very hyped fragrance, a very modern fragrance too. Usually against the grain of the kind of stuff you hear me talk about on this channel. This is a new modern fragrance from the house of Marc-Antoine Barrois, and it's called Ganymede. So before we get into it though, I do have a surprise unboxing. I did not expect this to come this fast. Here it is. And it's a big boy package. And so let's go through the unboxing so you can kind of see what I've been going for lately. Oh no, my handy dandy unboxing knife is missing. I think whenever I cut the screen, if you watched one of my previous videos, you saw that I actually cut my computer screen. I sent a picture of it to Rich Mitch. It's a pretty good size cut. I was opening a package and went swipe right across the screen. And I sent a picture to Rich. It's a pretty good size cut, because this knife is pretty sharp. But this was sent to me by a fellow fragrance brother in the community. He goes by the name D.L. Qualia, and he, basically approached me, and he was kind enough to send me some stuff. He was kind enough to send me some stuff very early on when I started my channel, probably within the first month or so. He might have even been the very first person to ever send me anything, and so we've had a connection with each other before. And some of the stuff he sent me from the very first go around, I talked about on the channel. And some of them are still kind of waiting in queue to be talked about, if you will. But he wrote me and said, "Hey mate, I've got this bottle. I heard you talk about it on the channel, saying, hey, it's maybe the last Roja Dove fragrance you would want a full bottle of. I only sprayed it like 10 times. I'll give it to you at a big discount to retail price. This is a 1,000-pound fragrance new." And I said, okay, fine. So I ended up getting it at about 43% of what the current retail price is, because it's 1,000 pounds, not $1,000, and I got it for much less than that. So I got it very fair. He was very fair with me, and it's called Roja's Parfum de la Nuit number 3. Okay, now Parfum de la Nuit number 3 are basically people of the night that you meet, and the idea was 3 people that you meet, that you come across. Let's see if I can just read the little blurb. Roja Parfums. Let's see what they say about Parfum de la Nuit number 3. So I had to restart my system, and it always goes slow when I do that. Okay, search Parfum de la Nuit. Okay, let's see what Roja's website says. PDLN 3. Inspired by the art of seduction that happens as the sun goes down, Parfum de la Nuit collection offers 3 distinctly seductive scents. Number 3, the Exoticist, is an otherworldly creation which enchants the senses. This incredibly dry and leathery composition, you can see why I love it, blends the seduction of leather and labdanum with woody balsamic warmth of amyris. An elegant note of the world's finest rose lends a sweet lift to the precious note of saffron, which takes the whole creation to exotic lands. Okay, so basically the reason that I was very smitten with this is twofold. Number one, yes, it is leathery and smoky and all that stuff, but the reason that I was really smitten with this fragrance is the use of cumin. The cumin used here reminded me very much of a niche take on Eau de Hermes, which is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And Eau de Hermes, so I'm just going to put that right there. Okay. So Eau de Hermes is one of my favorite cumin fragrances. Actually, I just did a This Is Not a Top 10 cumin video. Go watch that if you are interested in learning more about fragrances in my collection that have the note of cumin. And so here it is. Here is the lacquered box, my lord. And there's the fragrance. It is a beautiful presentation. I will give it that. So there you have it. There's PDLN3. 10 sprays missing. Very good price. And I do like this one. I have samples of all three. I have 7.5 ml decants of all three. So I'll do videos on 1 and 2 too. But number 3 is the one that really took me. I might have to wear this tomorrow. You can see the engraving right there. I like it. I like the scent. It's overpriced. Even at the price that I paid, which I won't divulge our settled deal, but even at the very fair price that he gave me, I think it's overkill. So, let me just set this aside. I'm going to put it where it's going to go, which is going to be right here. So there you have it. Not a bad look, I would say. Okay, so let's go through the decants he sent me too, because he was very kind to say, hey man, I'm going to send you some decants of some stuff you haven't talked about on your channel yet. So the first one is Side Effect by Initio. Now, Initio is a brand that I must admit I'm not the biggest fan of. Side Effect has this sweetness to it, and I can tell you even from sniffing the atomizer, I've never smelled it before, but many of Initio's products have this overly disgusting sweetness to it. It's one of the reasons why I really don't like things like Absolute Aphrodisiac and stuff like that. And Side Effect does something similar for me. Came out in 2016, sweet and spicy. I'll do a full video on it, but it's supposed to be vanilla, tobacco, saffron, rum, cinnamon, hedione, sandalwood. So, sweet, spicy, winter-like scent. I'm glad to have this because otherwise I'd never be able to talk about it on my channel because I would never give Initio the money they're asking for it. But there you go, Side Effect. So, that's the first one. The second one is Rehab, and I think this is from the same house, if I'm not mistaken. Rehab. Rehab is also an Initio product, also very, very sweet from the atomizer. Rehab came out in 2018, so a couple years later. Spicy, sweet, bergamot, lavender, black pepper, sandalwood, cedarwood, patchouli, and musk. It is so sweet. That brand just, I have a problem with Initio. They, especially I think they're one of the most overhyped, overrated brands. Oh shit, this one leaked. Hang on one second. Let me just wipe this down. Yeah, this one leaked. All right, you come here. Let me tighten you up. Okay. So this is labeled RM5. So I know one of them, he said he was going to send as a mystery scent. And I don't know if this is it, but RM5 is the next one on the list. And then we've got, oh no, I don't know what is RM5? This is the mystery scent, because it's the one with the question marks. So he said he would send me an email telling me what it is. You know, I could do the video and then open up the email and see if what I talk about, you know, on the video is what actually matches. I thought it would be a fun idea. And then he finally sent me a decant of Roja's Apex, which I've never smelled. But he said that since I like vintage scents, I should try this one. So Apex. Apex is kind of a, you know how Roja has, he has Elysium, which is very, Elysium is very designer-esque. It's got this blue vibe to it. It's almost like crossing Bleu de Chanel with maybe like a Ventus, right? Apex, I think, is also his more designer take on an old school DNA. But I'll try it out. I won't hate on it until I get a chance to smell it, but I'm not excited from what I hear. What is this RM5? I need to figure this out. This is going to bother me. Is it an Initio too? Do they have an RM5? I don't see one. All right, I'm going to have to do some digging on that one. All right, so let's talk about the reason we're here. And that is this little gem, Ganymede. Now, I don't know if many of you have smelled this. I know it's kind of been a bit of a Fragcom darling. And, you know, what's interesting is it's perfectly named, okay? So, oh, now I've got this RM5 all over my hand. I need to do a fresh spray on this other hand so I can get the opening again. 1 second. Okay, let's do a fresh spray here. All right, so while we wait for it to dry down, let me tell you my thoughts on it, because I've been wearing this all day as my scent of the day. And here's kind of the deal with Ganymede. So the name itself is perfect. If you know anything about astronomy, Ganymede is the largest moon of Jupiter, okay? And the scent, I'm going to talk a lot about kind of the way it makes me feel, because it's a very hard scent to place. You're not going to be able to say it smells like this fruit and this flower. This is a, you know, this is an idea. This is like an idea in a scent. Okay, if that makes sense. And so it reminds me very much of college astronomy. And the reason I say that is they brought out these huge telescopes, right, when we were in college astronomy, and you can kind of, you know, set them up so you could see the planets themselves. If you get a telescope that has enough power. And, you know, I remember looking through the telescope and seeing something like Saturn, you know, or Jupiter. And you would see this object. And the object would be, you knew in your mind that it was hundreds of times larger than Earth. You knew that this object that you're looking at in this telescope is about, you know, this big, and all you see around it is this infinite blackness, right? This infinite darkness. That is a great interpretation of the scent of Ganymede, believe it or not. Because here's the breakdown. Italian mandarin orange, saffron, that's the top. Violet and osmanthus, which I can't say I really get any of that. The Italian mandarin orange, yes. The saffron, maybe a little bit. The base is Akigala wood and Immortelle Absolute. If you're not familiar with Akigala wood, it's basically this fractionated patchouli creation, this fractionated patchouli oil that Givaudan came up with. Many people describe Akigala wood as smelling woody, spicy, and some floral aspects. And, you know, if you wanted to imagine this flower floating through space, you easily could. That could be a good image for the fragrance, but you can't smell the flower because it's in space. You know, that's the idea. And so if you've ever looked at one of those planets, you know, if you've ever really taken a look at Saturn or Jupiter or something like that through a telescope, there is this amazing vastness that you seem to be looking at, even though you're only looking at a small piece of the, you know, of the universe that you can see of our solar system. To me, it always gave me this real feeling of aloneness, like, you know, Jupiter is out there all by itself, you know, orbiting nothing. We know it's not orbiting nothing; it's orbiting the sun. But if you're just staring at it, you don't think about all the other things that's going on in the solar system. You just see this planet all by itself. You know, it gives you this feel of alone, of this huge size of the solar system, and then how small even something as big as a planet can be, right? And it's very strange that a scent can give that feel, and maybe it's the marketing playing into it, but he did a great job really hitting the brief. He knocked the brief out of the park here. By the way, the perfumer is Quintin Biche. I don't know if I mentioned that, but Quinton Biche is the perfumer. And so when you first spray, all right, so I'm going through the opening now. I've got it dry down of an hour or so here, hour or two. I've been wearing it all day and kind of reapplying and playing with it and stuff like that. And I did wear it to bed once before. So I put a pretty good dent into this. This was pretty close to full when one of my perfume godparents sent this to me. And so the opening, you get this amazing Italian mandarin orange. And at first, the very first time I applied this, okay, first time, I thought I got cumin or some sort of spiciness. Now, I mentioned, if you heard the note breakdown, I mentioned a base of Immortelle Absolute. And if you watch my video on Immortelle, I did an entire This Is Not a Top 10 on Immortelle. And Immortelle is sometimes referred to as the curry plant or the curry flower, because it can sometimes smell like you're smelling cooking spices, curry cooking spices. And it can also sometimes smell very sweaty, very dry, very brown. It gives me a very fall-like vibe normally, but very sweaty. There's no cumin in this fragrance, I don't think. If there is a little bit of cumin in the top, it very quickly dissipates. But you're left feeling like you're smelling some sort of sweaty spice in the opening, but it instantly begins to mix with that Italian mandarin orange, and the Italian mandarin orange is the main star of the opening, okay? It really takes center stage, and it is, you know, very nice. And we'll talk about some fragrances that it will remind you of that also use an orange-like vibe. If you're getting the picture of the DNA that I'm describing, and you know where I'm going with other fragrances like this, it won't be a surprise once we get there. But the Immortelle can give off this sweaty cumin-like vibe, and I think that's what I'm getting in the first 5 minutes, although it's strange that Immortelle is a base note, and I'm getting it in the very opening. So my guess is that Quinton Biche did use a touch of spices not listed in the note breakdown, to my nose. That's my guess, but I could be completely wrong. And so here's a couple descriptors that I kind of thought about, you know, while trying to describe this scent, because this was a very difficult one to do. And remember, this is an early impression. This is the first time I've worn this as my scent of the day on skin. And to be honest with you, when I wore it to bed a while back, I was dreading doing this because I didn't care for it enough to want to wear it as my scent of the day. That is one of the downfalls of having a channel, is, you know, I'm kind of torn between wanting to wear the stuff that I want to wear and wanting and needing to wear something for a review, because I want to put it on the channel and I want to put my thoughts out there and I want to talk about it. And unfortunately, scent of the day is really the only way that I can do this in a way where I trust my nose enough to put it out there. Normally, I will do these, you know, late night insight, quick hit reviews, whatever you want to call it, because I just have so many scents now. But this is how I prefer to do it, scent of the day, because I can really get a better feel for the way that the fragrance transitions and all this stuff, right? And so I knew what this was, and I knew what I was getting myself into going into it. But by hour 2, I was tired of it already. That's one of the downfalls of this scent, which we'll come to later on, is it's very futuristic, very sci-fi, very modern. I could imagine, you know, your favorite sports athlete who just signed a $30 million contract smelling like this. You know what I mean? Like, to other people, it's probably a real draw, a real compliment getter, because it smells so modern. You know, it really smells like it's taking that blue DNA, like it's taking that Bleu de Chanel Sauvage DNA and taking it to the next level, the next version of that blue DNA. And we'll talk about that too, because I did make a bunch of notes. One thing I do want to say before we go to my example is that if you think of Ganymede, imagine the moon itself, and imagine that on that moon there is a slight layer of water, and that water is completely frozen. That's the way that the saltiness smells here. So if you hear people say things like it smells salty, like ambergris, like Millesime Imperiale has that salty ambergris vibe to it, that smells much more aquatic. This literally smells like you're smelling the surface of a moon that has water covered, like it's been iced, if that makes sense. None of us know what Ganymede, the moon, smells like, obviously, but it really does have that strange, salty vibe to it. But it smells like you're smelling something that you've never smelled before. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it did so well, because it's so mass appealing, and yet at the same time it's so different. It's not a blue fragrance. It's not a sweet fragrance, which is a pro to me. The only reason I convinced myself this morning to put this on my skin today is because it's not a blue or a sweet fragrance. Because of the things that it's not, I appreciate it. I can give it props. I can give it, I can honor the fragrance in the way that it was created without loving it enough to want to go buy a full bottle, if that makes sense. So here's how it smells like to me. So imagine you take a mandarin orange, you peel it, all right, you take the skin off and you throw the skin on the ground or in the trash or something and let it rot, right? And on Earth, it's decomposing as the days go by. And you let it degrade a bit. You let it decompose. And then, obviously on Earth, where decomposition is possible. And then you put it out into orbit. All right? So you have this decomposing orange in a vacuum, in a space vacuum. And then what you do is you take that orange that's in a vacuum and you use a crap ton of synthetics. And I mean a crap ton. There's no other word I can use for it other than crap ton. Because it feels like Quinton Biche used every synthetic under the sun here. And yet, it still works somehow. It is extremely synthetic. It's one of the most synthetic, metallic fragrances I've ever smelled. It puts things like Platinum Egoist to shame. I mean, it is metallic as metallic can be. And so I mentioned the pro. He created this mass appealing scent that somehow turned out to be unsweet and dry. That's a winner for me right there, okay? The fact that I'm not going to buy a full bottle of this doesn't matter. He created something that is different from what 99% of mass appealing fragrances are doing nowadays. That's a win, as far as I'm concerned. And initially, when I first sprayed this on my hand, the very first time I sprayed this on my hand, I thought modern, updated Eau de Hermes because of that cumin vibe that I get in the first 30 seconds to a minute. Maybe a couple minutes, you get this cumin-like smell. And I thought, wow, this is like an insane modern Eau de Hermes. And then, obviously, it changes very quickly from that. It can't stay on that because I think that puts people off. That's probably my favorite part of the fragrance, the first minute or two. And then it very quickly transitions into other things. So that's an instant pro for me when I first sprayed it, that it reminded me of Eau de Hermes. But then, that was the very first time I wore it to bed. But then, now that I'm wearing it today, I said, wait a minute. This is not Eau de Hermes. This is more like Terre de Hermes because it does have a tiny slight bit of, I think Terre de Hermes has a slight bit of cumin. And actually, I have a sample that I've been occasionally wearing to bed. You can see I've put a pretty good sized dent in it, just wearing it to bed, spraying a couple times, and then doing it again the next day and stuff like that. And I will review this, maybe tonight, but I will talk about this and wear it more. But I've got this Terre de Hermes Eau de Toilette. I don't own a full bottle of the Eau de Toilette, believe it or not, shockingly enough. I sprung for a full bottle of the Parfum version, which came out a couple years after the regular Eau de Toilette. but I don't have the eau de toilette. And the reason I don't is it gives me a very similar vibe to Ganymede. Terre de Hermes, I could wear either and not care, to be honest with you. They're both, even though they're different, they both scratch the exact same itch for me. And it's an itch that I really don't enjoy scratching, if that makes sense. Terre de Hermes is much more dirty orange. It doesn't have that space-like vibe. Well, that's not what the marketing of Terre de Hermes was. But it does have this very modern isoe ambroxan thing going on. And, you know, there's this vetiver base going on with Terre as well. And I thought, you know, that this is kind of like a next generation Terre de Hermes, which Terre de Hermes was such a hit for Hermes. It really took Hermes from this, you know, very exclusive boutique. We're really for the bourgeoisie, and it made a scent for the masses. It was the first real true hit. I know my favorite Hermes is Bel Ami, but even Bel Ami didn't sell well in the 80s and 90s. It flopped, and, you know, it got stopped making it, and they started making it again, and all this stuff. And, you know, Terre de Hermes has this bit of metallic Flintstone-like vibe to it as well, with the grapefruit. Obviously, the grapefruit is one of the main notes in Terre. There's no grapefruit here, but there's a big orange, this dirty grapefruit orange thing in Terre, which will remind you of the mandarin orange in Ganymede. And there's patchouli in Terre de Hermes EDT. There's no patchouli here, but there's akigala wood, which is a fractionated patchouli oil. So you're starting to see the similarities, and you're starting to see why I think this is a next level. Now, Marc-Antoine Barrois is like this very specific niche house. You know, they're not Hermes, they're not Dior, they're not Chanel. I think they have 4 or 5 fragrances since 2016, and that's it. They have B683, B683 Extrait, which came out 2 years ago. B683 came out in 2016. And then they have this Enclade, which I've never smelled. I've never smelled B683 either, but... And they have Ganymede, which came out in 2019. That's it. They're a very specific French, you know, niche house. And I got to thinking, you know, Hermes actually tried to make this. I think they tried to make what Ganymede ended up being and failed. I think they failed trying to make what Ganymede ended up being, and that is H24. If you remember the H24 marketing, it was all about Christine Nagel is going to create something that smells like when the iron connects with the clothes and you get the steam, metallic ironing vibe, you know. I hated H24, I must admit. I've never smelled the eau de parfum, but I was not a fan of the eau de toilette. And if I ever score a sample of the EDT or EDP of H24, which I don't have in my possession right now, I'll do a video on it. Even though, like Ganymede and like Terre, they're not my favorite type of scent, I will still do it for you guys, because I think it's important to put these out. Many reviewers, they just want to talk about the stuff that they love. And I see that side of it, because you're passionate about what you love. It's easy to get on here and rave about something, right? It's easy to hype something. It's very hard to get on here and be subjective and talk about something that maybe you don't love, or maybe you like and you don't love. See, for me, this is a like. But as you can see, I'm pretty well stocked on perfume right now. And so since it's a like and not a love, I won't be buying a bottle. But I do want to talk through some of the history, because it's very interesting that, you know, Terre de Hermes, which, by the way, the other link to Eau de Hermes is that Edmond Rudnitska, who made Eau de Hermes in 1951, is one of the teachers. Jean-Claude Elena is one of his only teachers. He only trained Pierre Bourdon and his son, Michel. And that's it, as far as I know. Unless he had, like, hidden, you know, some people say Edmond Rudnitska's wife made a fragrance, you know, all this stuff. back and forth. I know he made a fragrance for his wife, but some people even say his wife, you know, helped him from time to time and is credited for fragrances. So she may have learned something from him. But long story short is he had very few disciples. Jean-Claude Ellena was one of them. So that's another link to the Terre de Hermes, you know, Eau de Hermes. You could even add Cartier's Declaration with the cumin in there. So this is a very modern, very updated, very, you know, if you're the type of person who needs like the newest iPhone as soon as it comes out, or, you know, you have to have the newest car, or, you know, you're all about the new apps and that kind of thing, I would think this is a fragrance for you, because it smells very modern. It smells very with the times, if you will, which with the way our world is going might not be the best thing, but it smells very sanitized, very 21st century, very, you know, there is a saying that probably doesn't apply, but it popped into my head, so I'm going to say it. There's a saying that says, it's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And they're talking about our current society, basically, obviously. And I don't know why that popped into my head, but it did. It has this sterilized vibe. You know when you go to a fast food restaurant and you see all those metallic, you know, you see everything in the kitchen is easy to wipe down and clean, and you can see the sparkly metallic counters and stovetops and all that stuff. That's a good example of how this smells. The other thing to mention is that the core, the actual core, if you go back, all right, to the planet itself, let your brain wander a bit and go back to the planet Ganymede, or the moon Ganymede itself. The core of that moon is made of a metallic. It's a metallic core. This has a very strange metallic sanitized vibe, if you want to go back to that sanitized idea. So metallic sanitized. It's almost Jetson-like, you know what I mean? It's almost like, instead of actually, okay, here's a good explanation. Instead of actually being futuristic, it smells like something that someone 50 years ago would think 2022 would smell like. Does that make sense? So it smells like something like the Jetsons. The guys who created the Jetsons cartoon would imagine the future to smell like. Doesn't smell like it smells today. It smells like the imagination of someone who lived 50 years ago, what today would smell like. It has this very futuristic but imagined, synthetic, sanitized, almost fake. I hate to use that word, but it almost does have this fake, you know, you know, this may not be politically correct, but I don't care. I don't give two shits. It reminds me of, you know how you see those Instagram models and they always are in some sexy pose, you know, facing away from the camera, and they look like they just live the most, all their entire life is a party, right? The Instagram models that you see, their entire life is a party. Everything about their life is just honky-dory. They're always on a beach, drinking, partying, having a good time, you know, YOLO, all that stuff, right? But off of Instagram, in real world, not on online, but in the real world, their life is an absolute complete disaster shithole. That's what the synthetic vibe of this fragrance reminds me of. That's why I use the word fake, because I think it would work perfect on a modern, you know, on a modern business executive or something, or, you know, not to say that they are fake, but it just fits so perfectly with the times. And that's why I think it's a winner. I think it's a winner because of that. Now, I won't be buying a bottle and wearing it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that love this stuff. I saw so many reviews that said, oh, this is masterpiece quality, and I completely see why they feel that way, especially when they're comparing it to some of the crap that's being put out now. And even though it's synthetic, the quality of the synthetics do smell good. They smell like high quality synthetics. And so I mentioned the natural saltiness. I don't think there's any real ambroxan in here or anything. I think I don't think there's any real ambergris in here. I think it's ambroxan. It does feel like a successor to the Blue Frag, and you can see Hermes trying to do something like this with H24. Maybe H24 even inspired this. When did H24 come out, actually? Because this was 2019. Did this inspire H24? H24 came out in 21. So yeah, this could have even inspired H24, to be honest with you. H24 has that, but H24 is more green, but it still has that freshly ironed, metallicness that I don't like. I'll tell you what, if you like that ironed type vibe, there's a Penhaligon's that Bertrand Duchaufour did, and it's called Sartorial. That came out in 2010. That has a beautiful metallic, ozonic metallicness to it, but it's like a classic fougere. So that's much more my style. I like the classics. I like the, when you smell the honey in Sartorial, or the oak moss, or the leather, or the, violet leaf, it smells like real ingredients. Everything in here smells, it smells like like it was created in a lab. Like, yes, they're using violet, but it's not real violet. It's violet created in a lab. Yes, they're using real mandarin oranges, but it's not real. It's created in a lab. The orange may be real, but it's lab grown, if that makes sense. That's the feel. It's the only way I can describe the fragrance. This is a very tough review because it is very hard to describe the way that this smells, but the fact that it's giving me problems shows you it's worth a sample. I mean, I'm glad I'm doing this video. I'm glad I made myself do this. I mean, there's some of these samples that I've put off forever. Like I said, the original guy, DL Quelia, who we did the unboxing for at the beginning of the video, he sent me samples from 8 months ago I still haven't gotten to. And so sometimes it takes you a bit to either work up the courage to wear it as a scent of the day, especially when you've smelled it before, or it just kind of gets pushed to the side because you're doing other things. But I wanted to do this because many people talk about this fragrance, and it is a very hyped fragrance in the community, especially with people who like to wear stuff like I'll give you an example. If this is your vibe, if you like to wear stuff like this, or if you like to wear stuff like this, Leighton, I think you should smell Ganymede. And I'm not putting anyone down by saying that, okay? I'm not putting anyone down by saying that. I bought this with my own money. Sauvage Parfum. Everything I own, I basically bought with my own money, except for the couple bottles that a few of you very kind people sent to me. Like Rachel sent me Winter Nights, and Heinke sent me Explosive. So other than just a couple one-offs here and there, all of this I spent my own money on. So I bought Sauvage Parfum, and sometimes I will wear it. Believe it or not. I don't like to, because I don't like smelling like everyone else. And anytime I go anywhere, this is all I smell. And it pisses me off. And so even though I may enjoy Sauvage Parfum, I usually won't wear it out and about. Because I don't like to smell like everyone else. I like to be my own man. I like to do my own thing. But I'm just saying, if you like Sauvage, if you like Leighton, if you like Aventus, if you like those kind of attention-seeking, positive compliment, fragrances that really put you at the center of attention, I think Ganymede is almost a must sniff for you. I'm not telling you to go blind buy it because I don't think it's cheap. I think it's an expensive fragrance. But it's very interesting. I mean, even though it's not full bottle worthy for me, it's interesting enough. I'm sitting here rambling for 40 minutes, not really knowing how to describe it. I think I gave you guys a good picture. I gave you guys a couple ideas that kind of popped into my mind, but I don't think I have the vocabulary to really describe the way it smells to me. If I just said it was woody or spicy, it wouldn't give you any feel for what this is. It's kind of one of those, you have to smell it. And so in closing, let's see, what else? So I mentioned earlier that within a couple hours, I was already bored of it, and that's true. I am ready for something else. I mean, I'm almost mad I made this my scent of the day, but then I'm happy that I'm able to kind of put this out there. But I'm not enjoying wearing it enough to, it's not like I'm like, oh man, I'm really enjoying this. I only have 2.5 mils left, but I could totally see this wearing this to work and people going, wow, you smell amazing. I could totally see that. Now, I don't give two shits about that, but I could, if you wanted attention, I could see this being an attention-grabbing fragrance. Although, I did show this to my wife, and I went, you're going to like this, because I had a feeling she was. And she went, I don't think I would enjoy smelling that on you. And I went, really? Okay, I was not expecting that. I was expecting her to say, wow, that's the best fragrance you've let me smell in a year. But she didn't, which is interesting. But she usually likes stuff that I think most women in their 30s wouldn't. Like, she likes a lot of the 80s stuff, like Koros and SAR and Antaeus, and that's the stuff she actually likes, believe it or not. She doesn't know what it is, but when I show it to her, she always says, yeah, wear more of that. And I'm like, this is Koros, right? But whatever. So a couple other things I made notes on. One comment said that it smells like plastic, and I don't think that would have initially popped into my mind had I not read the comment. I see what the person is saying. I think the person said something like it smells like a doll that they had when they were a kid. And now, now that I've read that and it does smell chemically, plasticky. He said Blade Runner, those kind of futuristic, those kind of, Star Trek-like, whatever you want to call it. And I could totally see plastic. The other thing I said, there was another example which came to mind, which I think is a good descriptor of the way the scent smells. Okay, so I can see the plastic. Imagine blending plastic with aluminum, or imagine that, now to me, imagine that you take an orange soda, like, I don't know, what's a Fanta? Imagine you take Fanta, and you pop the Fanta can, aluminum can Fanta, not plastic Fanta, aluminum can Fanta, and, you drink it, and when you drink it out of the can, how some of it kind of gets around the rim, and it just sits there, or you leave a little bit on the bottom. And let's say you take that aluminum Fanta can. First of all, when you pop it open, it's kind of fizzy. You smell the fizz right off of the can. And you get that fizz orange aluminum combo, okay? And then you take it and you leave it out in the Texas heat in the road. And you leave it out in the Texas heat in the road for a day or two, and let the sun at 90 plus degrees on September 19th, which is ridiculous. 95 degrees September 19th is just, can't wait for summer to go away, which I know it technically has, but it still feels like summer here in Texas. But imagine you left that aluminum can, orange soda, Fanta in the street, and then you come back a day or two later and smell the sticky soda that has kind of rimmed up around the can with the aluminum that's been heated by the sun. And, if you could blend that smell with the smell of the fizz when you pop it open, that metallic can with the fizz, and imagine you're smelling like this layer of ice on a planet. Not Millésime Impérial salty, but maybe what was once salty and now is completely like frozen over on the planet. That's the smell of Ganymede. It's a very, very strange, extremely strange experience. But there was one other thing that I wanted to mention, and there is a documentary from about 12 to 15 years ago. I don't know exactly how long ago. It may have even been more than that, but I think it was on the BBC, and it's about perfume. And if anyone knows, leave it in the comments so other people can watch it. But it's about perfume on the BBC. It's on YouTube. You can go find it. And it followed up-and-coming perfumers. And one of the perfumers that happened to be on that show from whenever it was, I don't know if it was 2007 or 9 or 12, but it was Quinton Biche. And while he was going through perfumery school. And I remember distinctly, they were so the teacher of the school was taking them out and saying, this is clary sage, it smells very dry and sweaty. This is lavender, it smells very herbal, and blah, 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 on and on. And they were smelling the actual fields that the, school owned. And I remember him staring at the lavender field. And I remember him saying, I really would just like to come out here, because he was with a bunch of people. But I remember him saying to the camera, I really would just like to come out here when it's just me and just lay down in this field and look up at the stars. And as soon as I smelled this and I realized it was a Quinton Biche, I said, only that kind of by yourself, alone, staring up at the stars in the middle of a lavender field, could an idea like this come to mind. This is very artistic. And even though it's not my thing, I really have to give it props. I mean, he took a chance with this, which that's my favorite way to make a creation, is to take a chance. I mean, and he did. He took a chance with this, but it's a imaginative, unique. I mean, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the work that he's done. He has other things that I think are more to my liking, and I don't think I've done a perfumer's portfolio on him yet, but I will do one on him. And he's got some other stuff that I have some early impressions coming soon. Like, for example, he did Le Male Le Parfum, which I actually like better than the regular Le Male, believe it or not. He did the Le Parfum from 2020, which is cardamom, lavender, iris, vanilla, and this, oriental notes in the base. But he's made some decent stuff. I mean, he's done a lot of these designer-esque, these regular designer things that he also did, by the way, this discontinued Le Male, which I really like, and I think it's underrated, Essence de Parfum. It is sweet. Again, it's this designer sweet thing, but he does it very good. I mean, when he puts his mind to something, even the designer stuff, I think he does a good job. And Ganymede, I think, is the one that maybe really could change the face of modern popular culture fragrances because of H24, and because if more houses follow suit. I mean, Hermes is usually on the cutting edge. So if Dior tries to release something H24-like or Ganymede-like, or, if Chanel tries to move away from blue to Chanel and make something else, and they make something like this, this style could be era-defining. And if it is, then this is the best version of that I've ever smelled, if that makes sense. So it's not for me. Just like I don't own a bottle of Bleu de Chanel in any formulation. In fact, this is probably one of the only blue fragrances I own a full bottle of, is Sauvage Parfum. Because I just don't think you need a lot of blue fragrances, and I never reach for it. But Sauvage Elixir is nice. I will say that. I do enjoy Elixir, but I would never buy a bottle since I already have the Parfum. So anyways, that's my take on Ganymede. If you guys have smelled it, I would love to know if you think I did a good job describing it, and I'd love to know what you think it smells like. Plastic, orange soda, moon, space, whatever your take on it is, aluminum. But yeah, I'd love to know your take. I'd love to know your experience with the house of Marc-Antoine Barrois. If there's others from the house that I should maybe try to look into. You know, there are many from the house that I've never smelled. I haven't smelled any of the other ones, actually. So if you think I should dive more into the house of Marc-Antoine Barrois and try B683 or Encalade or whatever it is, do let me know. So I appreciate your attention watching this video, and I appreciate everyone's support, the comments, the feedback in the comments is brilliant. I think I have some of the most knowledgeable subscribers in the industry, in the YouTube game, let's say, you know, and even though, you know, I get people all the time that say, how do you only have 1,800 subscribers? And it's like, hey, I'm happy with my 1,800 subscribers because it's like, I know them, they know me. They're not wanting me to dress up in a clown suit and run around or do one-handed push-ups like Jeremy Fragrance, or I can do my thing. And they enjoy what I do, and we've got a great relationship. So I do appreciate every single one of you subscribers, and everyone who leaves a comment and all that stuff is very much obliged. So thank you very much. Cheers. See you again tomorrow with another video. Bye, guys.